And so there's so many opportunities and low-hanging fruit for churches to be able to tap in relationally to these people that are enrolling in the preschool and funnel them into the church and see life change and transformation take place amongst the parents and siblings and the children themselves.
Hey friends, welcome to the LeadingSmart podcast. This season we're talking about leading in real time. And Holly's not here, as you might have noticed. I am here with my friend Brandi Watterson, and I'm going to let her introduce herself here in a minute. But today we're going to unpack a bit about something new we've started at LeadingSmart, which is helping churches with their schools and specifically their preschools. And so this is often a church that's either thinking about starting one. This is a church that's had one for a long time and maybe it's in decline. This is churches where it's like, we have one and we're not sure we like that we have one, or it's taking up space that we wish it wasn't taking up space in our building anymore. And we're wondering about that. Like, can we make this a win again? So that's what we're gonna talk about. So I want to introduce Brandi. So Brandi and her husband, Danny, and my wife, Faith, and me are best of friends. We actually vacation together and have amazing times together. But we all met Brandi probably 10, 11 years ago. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think it was 12 years ago. Yeah.
12 years ago. So when Faith and I moved to Houston, and one of the first people I met was Danny, and then quickly Brandi thereafter, and we just started doing life together, and it was just amazing. But Brandi, I want you to you and Danny have been doing ministry for longer than you've been in the preschool business. So take me back to how'd you guys even get into ministry? I know you guys met when you were like 4 or something like that. I don't know, but take us back to that. Okay.
Close.
Close.
Yeah, so Danny and I went to school together, met in 6th grade. A little short history, we went out for 2 weeks in 7th grade, got back together in 9th grade, and have been together ever since. So we've been married 30 years come this January 2027.
Yeah.
And one of the stipulations that my dad put on Danny was basically, if you want to date my daughter, then you have to go to church, because Danny wasn't raised going to church. He was like, score, I'm in. I get to spend
Whatever
more
it
time with
takes.
her.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so the student pastor really grabbed a hold of him. And by about 16, his sophomore year, he was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be in ministry. I want to make a change and an impact in people like my student pastor made in me. And so we were on that trajectory together all through high school, super involved in our student ministry. After graduation, we were always on leadership team for student ministry. And then lo and behold, he stepped in as a student pastor, and we haven't looked back. It's been 29 years in ministry together now.
Wow.
As a married couple. And it's led to all different positions across really large churches for the most part, and brought us to 2017, 9 years ago, when we planted a church here in the Woodlands.
And that's amazing. And when you said we've been doing it together, like even if Danny's been the person hired, you guys have always been doing it together. I've watched you guys do that for the last 12 years of really engaging in this together. And you guys are a power couple in every sense of the word, and what you guys are able to accomplish. I remember when Danny in 2017, when Danny said he like texted me an address and said, "Hey, meet me here," and I'm like, "Okay." I didn't know where I was going, but I trusted Danny. He's like, "I got something to show you," and so I go to this building, and I don't know that it's a church. I don't know which side I came in, but I didn't recognize it as a church building. It's just like, come in this door, and he starts walking me through this building, and then we end up in the last room, which is a church, and he says, I think we're going to start a church. And it was super cool, because we were working together at Vanderbilt at the time, and you'd been running preschools, and he had talked about maybe starting a church someday, but I didn't know it was that current, or that recent on his heart, and that it was actually going to happen.
Neither one of us knew that it was going to come that quick. So yeah.
And it's been such a cool story, kind of watching that for the last 8 years. 10 years. 10 years next year, I guess, right?
Next year will be 10 years.
Yeah. So take me through, then it was before that, though, that you decided to buy a business and ended up buying this preschool. So tell me that story, and what was the state of that preschool at the time? And then, why did you even get into that? What was leading towards that?
Yeah, so we had been in ministry. We were wanting to do something on the side as well. It was really more that we wanted to be able to do something that was fulfilling, that provided for our family, to where our hearts could be pure towards whatever we served in from a ministry standpoint. And at the time, he was still a student pastor. It was 17 years ago. And literally Googled preschools for sale in the Woodlands back in 2008.
Wow.
And this school popped up on Google, and it was right around the corner from us. And in my naive mind, I'm like, well, this is going to be easy because, I mean, we've been doing ministry forever, and I've got 3 girls. My youngest was 3 years old. We were super unhappy with a big franchise that we were in out here in the area with our youngest. And I would always come home and I would say to Danny, if they would just run it from a parent's perspective, like it would be so much better, gold, if they ran it from a parent's perspective. And so I took that naive mindset. We went down the road of doing as much due diligence as possible to purchase a business. We had no idea what we were doing. And sometimes I thank God we were so naive, because if I knew everything I was stepping into, I probably would have been scared to death and would have never gone in that direction. But it was rough. We closed on it in 2009. It was a spiraling school, did not have a good reputation, and just needed a lot of work, not only from a physical building standpoint, but there was zero programming. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. So it was like school of hard knocks, and I just dove in head first and decided to give it my all and have that vision of I'm running it from a parent's perspective. And I actually told the teaching team there that I would not enroll my 3-year-old until I felt like it was ready from that standpoint that our heart was coming from. And so it took a full year to get it to that point. And I remember the first time I brought my daughter in and she entered the classroom and the whole building cheered because they're like, we made it. Like, we're approved. We're parent approved now. And
That's
so
awesome.
it was pretty awesome just to be able to be a part of the milestones. And I look back and I thank God for the struggles that I went through, because it helped me to see things from a different angle. And it helped me to really depend on God and the heart that I felt like he was calling us to, because this was another extension of ministry to us. Even though we didn't label it as a faith-based or a Christian preschool, it was another extension of ministry, and we wanted to provide something in our community that parents could trust. So that's kind of how it started, just from a Google search.
Did you give it the name Brighton, or was that name already there?
So we spent our life savings on this. We actually downsized our house and used equity from our home to be able to buy the business. And by the time it came to all of the legality of things, we just transferred the name over because we didn't want to pay any more attorney fees. And it was a brand new business that had just started, and so felt like we could turn around the reputation and adapt it in the way that it needed to. So kept the name.
And then you've expanded that significantly over the years to other locations and other versions, because I think your original version or original location was a standalone preschool and a standalone building. Is that right?
Yep.
And
Still
then,
have that at our headquarters now. Yeah, and then just slowly expanded. The second location was actually in the church that we planted. So they have a separate building that is connected to the main building that they were utilizing as a childcare preschool center. And that church ended up being a foreclosed property when we came around. And so it was an empty building, needed a lot of work. And it's really hard in our area to continue to expand just because of the regulations that exist within our township. And it matched the perfect vision and heart behind what we did, because we knew that God had placed it on our heart to start a church one day. And then with the combination of the school to be able to really draw the community in and being able to do a church and launch all at the same time, just felt like it was, this next step that we were supposed to take. And then opened another school 2 weeks after opening our second location in the church, opened a third school, and then about a year later opened a fourth school.
And I love that, because what it's done is given you so much experience with, preschool, a standalone preschool, a preschool in a church. You have a preschool in another organization. You're hosting a charter school, and all have, I'm sure, different challenges in that. But that's been pretty amazing. So 17 years in the educational world, owning and leading these preschools and hiring staff. And I know as we've talked over the years, just there's ups and there's downs and there's challenges to all of that. What are you finding? And I know you've been working with us now for since the beginning of the year and working with a few different churches already. Like, what are you finding common as far as specifically like churches that have a preschool? What are some commonalities of challenges that they're talking to you about?
I think one of the number one challenges that I hear is the tension that exists between the preschool side and the church side.
Yeah.
It's almost this approach of being a completely separate entity altogether instead of like a unified mission that the church has as a whole for their community. And so that's really probably one of the biggest areas that I see tension surrounding is just how do we get on the same page? How do we actually work together for the same cause and the same why behind what we do? And really intermingle like the different ministry departments into the preschool program so that everybody has buy-in to what we're doing. I think a lot of churches can tend to lose sight, especially if the preschool has been in a church for many, many years. Yeah. Sometimes the vision, there's this gap that forms and you forget the funnel of growth that a preschool can actually be for your church. And, people that don't go to your church will enroll their kids into a faith-based program because they trust faith-based programs. And even if they don't believe in the same way, they still will trust their kids to the care of that. And so there's so many opportunities and low-hanging fruit for churches to be able to tap in relationally to these people that are enrolling in the preschool and funnel them into the church and see life change and transformation take place amongst the parents and siblings and the children themselves. And so I think when that vision and that gap exists, it's really coming back to the roots of why do we do what we do? What is our purpose here? And let's get realigned and let's make sure that we're actually walking this out to the best of our ability and stewarding the opportunity that we have to serve our community in the best way that we can.
Yeah, it's like a mindset shift because same thing. I've talked to churches where you know that when that preschool started, it was a ministry mindset that, it's like, hey, how can we reach our community? How can we serve our community? How can we bring families maybe that are far from God into our building, even during the week and love on them. And then at some point it becomes like, it's just a burr in our saddle. It's like, they're taking up our building, they're taking up our space, they're leaving our rooms a mess for the weekend. And it becomes a burden. Yeah. It's like a sense of like, we've just lost sight of the mission side of it. And I think that starts from the top down, from the board, from the senior and executive staff, and then it trickles down to the people that are actually our pastors and children's pastors and student pastors. And my goodness, like I think you and I were talking not long ago about like, if you can see that like as a ministry in a sense of, my goodness, here's 30 families or 100 families that we have opportunity to love on 5 days a week or 3 days a week, whatever it is, that we would never have that opportunity otherwise. What are some of the things you see, like as far as, are there any common things churches are doing where it's like a money drain, where if they just did things a little bit differently or saw it a little bit differently, it actually would not be a money drain, it could actually add money to the ministry?
Yeah, I think bringing excellence to the programming, churches can tend to have a bad rap in different communities for just being subpar in comparison to the bigger brands or the standalone, even privately owned schools. And I think there just needs to be the same level of excellence that you try to bring to every ministry department within your church. It needs to be the same focus. It needs to be one of the top priorities because we're starting at the youngest of age and we're able to integrate a whole family unit into several different ministries within the church if you can, program it in a way that is attractional to the community and that their kids are growing in and thriving in. And it's not just childcare babysitting, it's actually a productive day for the kids that they look forward to. And I think being intentional too, from a pastoral standpoint, a lot of church preschools are going to have chapels each week. And it's being intentional with rotating the children's pastor, the children's ministry team, even student ministry team in there to get to know the kids, get to know the families, having different teams like at drop off and pickup times to be able to get to know families, build relationships, and show who you are as a church and be real and authentic. It does so much to be able to build this trust that a lot of people don't have with churches nowadays. And you have the opportunity as a church that has a preschool in it 5 days a week, or, if it's a part-time program, 3 days a week, you have this opportunity that a lot of other churches don't have, but it's what you do with the opportunity that's going to show the fruit.
That's good. And then you're also talking to churches that don't have, they've got space and it's maybe empty during the week and they're thinking about it and they're asking questions. What are some of the things you're helping these leaders, these churches think through if they're potentially going to launch a preschool?
Yeah, so it's walking them through two different thoughts and mindsets. Do I want to have this as a ministry of the church that we actually run and operate from the ground up? Or is this something that we want to have somebody else run and organize it for us, make sure all the requirements are being met, but yet is a ministry partner of the church? And so there's two different caveats to that. And so we go through the pros and cons of what both looks like, because there's not a right or a wrong answer. It's really dependent upon, who the team is and what the capacity level is of the team at the church. And then we go through just the timelines of things, of how long it takes to get licensing, how long it takes to get the building renovated or tweaked a bit to be able to meet the standards that are required per state. Walking them through that process, holding their hands through that process, even helping with interviewing for their key leadership team and making sure they're a good fit for the church as well. And just, helping them to make sure that they're setting up a school the right way from the ground up, even with systems, processes, and programming to be able to fill the day. Some schools are 12-hour days, just depending upon who they're looking to serve. Dual income families are going to be year-round, 12-hour days with optional drop-off pickup times, and some are going to be more focused on like a Mother's Day out, part-time program, half-day program. And so there's so many different areas that can be focused on and opportunities that we can just walk through and wrestle down to see what's the best fit for my church in my city, and how can we be this ministry funnel for our community into our church.
And there's, I know I've heard you helping churches just find out like what are the requirements for the building codes, And I heard you talking to a guy last week of like, hey, we're getting ready to build. What should we consider if we want to add a preschool? And like, man, that's a fantastic time to be asking that question. But even after the fact, which is probably more likely, and it varies a little bit state by state, but for you, you're able to come alongside and help them just make sure they have the right egress and the toilets are at the right size, I'm sure, and the bathrooms and accessibility and all of the stuff that.
Yeah, it's square foot per child. It's how many sinks, how many toilets, square foot outside on playground. There's so many things that I don't think churches really understand or think about when they're looking at starting a program like this.
Yeah.
And the startup time can be a lot longer than most churches anticipate as well. And so it's really giving this accurate overview and timeline forecasting, like this is the realistic time frame that you could probably be able to launch, based upon what's needed to get started. So,
well, that's amazing. I'd encourage anyone listening, if preschool is not your thing, pass this along to someone else at your church who might be where this topic is super relevant to them. And if we can help, if a conversation with Brandi would be helpful for you, just reach out to us. Go to the website, leadingsmart.com. There's a button that says Let's Talk. And you're going to get connected to Holly's calendar, and she's going to find a time to connect with you and then connect you with Brandi as well. And this looks different ways. Sometimes it's, hey, let's just come out for a day or two and just kind of do a deep dive on your current programming and help you solve some challenges. This can be, hey, let's come alongside you and we'll be with you for over the long haul as you get your preschool started. We can carve it based on kind of what your needs are. So Brandi, it's fun working with you in like a more professional way besides just vacations together with our spouses, and love what you do. You recently, this is a little rabbit trail, but you recently got signed on, and I can't remember the title. Is it the Forbes Business Council?
Yeah. So it's actually been 3 years now.
3 years, okay.
Yeah, I've been writing for Forbes from a leadership standpoint topic in regards to actually preschool, but also from, cross industries.
Yeah.
just leadership tactics and approaches, systems, processes. So, funny story is I got an email invitation for a Zoom invite from Forbes, and I deleted it because I'm like, well, that's scam. I'm not gonna click on that.
This can't be true.
And like yeah, and the next week they reached back out again, and I was like, maybe this is something. So I went to the guy's LinkedIn profile, and I'm like, oh, like he's legit. So yeah, it came out unexpected, but it's been a fun journey.
Well, not surprised because you're an amazing leader. Your preschools in the Woodlands have been the highest rated preschools for years, every year with a community survey, which is very cool. And now I love that you're kind of passing on wisdom to these churches that are interested in starting this ministry. So,
I love that. So
yeah, grateful. Okay, so leadingsmart.com and hit that Let's Talk if we can help you in that in any way. And you'll find other resources there and downloads and all the stuff. If we can be helpful at all, that'd be great. So thank you for tuning in to the Leading Smart podcast.